Okay, so my client Xander, right? He was struggling with direction. He had poor decision making skills, and this was leaving him to feel overwhelmed, and he was feeling adrift of where he wanted to be. And he felt behind the curve for the people around his age. He had very poor accountability for making progress, and he was single and confused. Fast forward, he was truly aligned with his vision. He knew where he was going. This created internal peace with his conscience. He had a clear mind for productivity and was really going somewhere with where he wanted to be. He had a much more rational mindset and he got back into the dating game, which was super exciting. So when that Xander arrived, he felt overwhelmed and confused because he had lots of good ideas and options, all aligned with his career and his interests. And he was already successful up to this point as well when he turned up with his passions and with his projects. But he was paralysed because he had so many good options to explore. And this was leaving him to feel overwhelmed and was affecting his mental health, his productivity, and he slip into a cycle which was leaving him to feel really quite stagnant with no progress. And he's put himself on the shelf with dating because he didn't feel right or worthy to be dating at this time because he hadn't got his life in order. So he knew something had to change because he was moving slower than he wanted to be. He knew he was at a point of his life where he could capitalise on all these different options. And he was aware that there was great options on the table, but he needed a system to move forward with them. So his mental health and his well-being was a top priority, but he was fed up with it suffering. This was a cycle that Xander felt stuck in for quite a long time. He wanted to keep aligned with his passion for serving a greater purpose, as well as working for personal interests. He had a real heavy conscience for doing work for charity and for people that were less privileged than he is. He wanted financial freedom, and he knew his current life and work pattern wasn't going to provide it. So he got ready to accelerate his life forwards. He knew that more of the same were getting the same results. He was feeling overwhelmed with his list of ideas and opportunities, and he knew he needed to create a roadmap to go forward with it. So he was ready to rewrite his story, and he was super excited to get going forwards with this new chapter in his life and solve this conundrum he had sitting in front of him. So we've got all his ideas written down. He'd never really done this before. His life was quite disorganised, and he had no clear direction what was causing this stress and anxiety. So he dived deep into what mattered to him most and how important it was to him not just to work for himself, but to serve for a greater cause, as well as following his passions at the same time. So we got crystal clear on what his values and priorities were. With this, he visualised and created a vision of where he sees himself and how he will be living in 10 years' time. And from that, he could create a roadmap and how he was going to get there. Instantly, this made him feel better because he knew he was working towards a purpose that was aligned with his priorities. So he rewrote his truth. He was deeply conscious of where his life started, and he was really wanting to live a life authentically to himself. This was a top priority to him, and not to fall along with what society said. So we brought into balance beliefs and fears which were holding back his decisions and his progress. Really got this into balance for him because this was swaying decisions and leaving him feeling torn from which avenue to progress down while trying to fulfill his life vision. So once he became aligned with this, the path began to present itself. And it was beautiful because opportunities and people just literally started to walk into his life. He knew where he was going, and this brought a sense of inner peace, and his confidence excelled, and he literally turned into a new man straight away. So this direction aligned with a healthier mindset. He had, like I said, lots of different avenues to go down, which led him around in circles, but he created this vision, but then he needed to stay grounded through mindfulness practices, and he was able to make these important decisions. He took on this new level of calmness, which he was able to take into each day and led him to be much more productive. So yeah, Xander had a list of healthy habits as long as his arm, and that was pretty much his problem. Building a routine and making habits that would stick was the job. We wrote out, or he wrote out a plan of what he was going to be doing each day, how he would start his day, a new healthy routine, and this is what gave him the bandwidth to deal with whatever was thrown at him each day, but also progressing with his the different avenues, and working towards his goals and the key markers that he set to work towards his big goals. So he was very consistent with his daily rituals, and he was living aligned with this vision. And this, as I said, gave him a higher sense of confidence and self-worth going towards his bigger vision. So to recap, when Xander came in, he was overwhelmed and didn't know where to go. He wasn't making any headway with which direction to go in. He had great success already, and he was enjoying his passions, but he didn't know how to structure this as a productive life to work towards, to fulfill his goals for financial freedom. And he wanted to create a healthy, fulfilling balance for this. So 8 weeks later, after working together, he created a roadmap where he was going, and which gave him daily focus and structure. And this gave him confidence for going forwards into the future and for today. By knowing where he was going, his mental well-being improved, and his life started to take care of itself, because suitable opportunities just started to come in his direction in abundance. Almost laughable at times it was. So the three things that were holding Xander back: his life was disorganised. He didn't know what mattered most to him. He was overwhelmed with the prospect of putting a plan together, and following failed other coaching experiences before, he felt stuck, and he knew he needed the right person to help get clarity on his future.